Good morning, everybody. Hi, buddy. And welcome back to City Sowers. This is Teddy. He's getting so big, and he's still a lover. Aw, look at that. Goat snuggles. Things have been crazy busy. I've been getting a lot of work done. There you go, buddy. I've been getting a lot of work done in the front yard, and yesterday I got some stuff done in the garden. Unfortunately, I have not had the camera with me because some of it is just, I'm doing it, and I don't think about the camera until I'm done. So that's just part of like remembering to do things for YouTube. So first, let's take a look in the garden. Now, it is a little bit of a mess. I actually have plans for another project this week to come in and clear up all the walkways in here, and we're going to put fresh mulch down into the walkways and I'll clean it up, make it look nice, but there's a ton of volunteer plants coming up in there. What I'm planning on doing is kind of shoveling everything out and just putting fresh stuff down, and what I will do with the stuff that I remove is I'm going to go put it in a pile on the back of the house, and I'm gonna let it kind of just break down, and maybe we'll be able to use it in future gardening seasons as a soil amendment. And things are starting to bounce back after being transplanted. The basils are looking good. I put these chives in yesterday, but yeah, things are looking good in the herb beds. See, this tomato has gotten enormous. This is the Tiger Blush tomato. It's already got some blossoms on it, so that's exciting. It's just doing awesome. And this one here, this is the Thorburns Terracotta. It's taking off and doing great. Pretty much all the tomatoes that, you know, I put in are doing fine. This spot here is reserved actually for this baby tomato that is, it's growing outside right now, but it's still so small. I'm a little afraid of putting it actually in the soil until it gets a little bit bigger and I can bury it a little deeper. But he is growing outside and he's doing great. The tomatoes that the goats munched down, these are all volunteer sunflowers that I haven't decided how much of it I'm gonna thin, but I am gonna let some of them grow up because they'll just kind of tower over the tomatoes and be awesome. But here's one of the tomatoes that got munched. It's doing great. It's coming back. And then this one that was eaten down to completely nothing is fantastic. So I am not at all concerned about my tomato harvest this year. Last night I replanted my cucumbers that the snails keep coming in and eating. So now I've got some of these Slugo Pellets. These are an organic pellet that will prevent the slugs and snails from eating all my things. So far it's doing its job. I replanted my melons, which have all the pots next to them so I can remember which one's which if any of them perish. If any of them die, I'm going to try just direct sowing, and if it doesn't come back, then so be it. I'll just deal with whatever melons I have. But yeah, everything else is pretty much unchanged. This bed had an okra and a squash plant, both of which, for some reason, just decided to kick the bucket. So those have been direct sown, restarted. But I've got elephant garlic all throughout the garden, and they're growing scapes, which I have never, ever, ever grown garlic that produces scapes before. So I've got to look up what to do with them, because I'm like, I know that you can eat them. I just don't know what to do with them. And it's interesting because so this one is all bulby, but if I come over here, let's see, which one has it? Oh, like, see this one. This is a scape that this is where the bulb would be, but all of the elephant garlics that are in this bed have just very long, skinny scapes instead of bulby ones, which is interesting. Not sure what causes them to be different, but I'm just happy that I'm happy, you're happy, you know, that kind of thing. Oh, and so over here, oh, Teddy. Over here we had a little feeding bucket on the fence. It's no longer there, and there's a reason for that. The reason being that Mr. Teddy Monster figured out how to get into the garden. And so on these panels, the gaps are kind of more narrow the farther down they are. But that bucket was right here on the top, like, small panel. And he could get through right here where these larger gaps are. And I actually caught it on video on my cell phone yesterday. Take a look. Little stinker. You stinker. How do you like them apples? Took the feeder off. Okay. So now the feeder only gets put on when in use, or it's going to go over on the side where I've got fencing going up. Stinking brat. Total brat, right? Oh well. I'm pretty sure that he was mostly just getting in there because I happened to be in the garden, and I happened to be there when he discovered how to do it. So nothing really got damaged. So all's well that ends well. It's fine. We've solved the problem. He's not in there anymore. But yeah, good times. All right, moving on. Look at how glorious these nasturtiums are. These mostly survived the winter. I'm sure some of them are like volunteers coming back. You see, here's the orchid cream. I don't remember the name of this variety. I think it might have come in a mix pack. It might have been in the jewel mix maybe. But it has decided to take over. And I mean, it goes all the way down to the end there, which is a mess. And continues over here, mixes with a yellow one, but that orange one still keeps going, keeps going, keeps going, all the way here. That thing is taking over, and I kind of love it. I don't know that I'm going to put anything else in here because of the sunlight issues that it has. I've tried putting things over here like squashes and just, yeah, they never do anything. So I'm going to let these flowers just kind of have it. It looks great. But the kids' tomatoes are doing good. They're taking off. Nathan's already has blossoms on it. So, yeah. They're good. The mound over here got a serious makeover. I brought in some of this larger nugget mulch. It is a little bit more expensive than some of the stuff that we can get. But my hope and my goal was that the stuff is large enough that the cats won't just dig into it and use my fruit tree mound for a toilet. And so far, I have not found any holes in the mulch or poop. So that is a success. It's only been, oh gosh, maybe a week? I think it's been a week since I put this in, and I'm kind of thrilled that they have not yet ruined it. But now we can actually come on in and take a look and see some of the things that I have added and things like that. This is a calendula that is a volunteer that I transplanted, so it's looking a little sad right now, but that should perk back up. That's a strawberry blonde calendula. But the dianthus here is like fully happy. The sage plant, it, you know, fell over, but it's happy and blooming. I did put a chocolate daisy in here, so hopefully that takes off. But over here I've got some lemon balm that I am going to allow it to kind of cover this area because cats are supposedly repelled by lemon balm. So it's kind of a backup plan. And then on the opposite side over here I have a golden lemon balm, so they're going to kind of mix together and make gold and green all over it. Now, a bit of a tragedy happened with the apple tree. We had tree trimmers through the city come, and they trimmed up this tree, which is fabulous. That's great, you know. Trims up some of the shade, takes out some of the mistletoe that was just everywhere in that tree. But when they were dropping branches, a few things got damaged, and like this one it's hanging on, but it's severely damaged. You can see it's broken there, it's broken there. We've lost a few little twigs and branches. They were trying to be careful. However, we did lose the one branch that had the biggest praying mantis nest on it. And they took that branch away with them. So that is really tragic, because it was attached here and came out. So I'm really bummed about that. But we do have another praying mantis nest right here. And apples. I'm so excited. This is like the first year that the apple tree has like really done something. All 4 varieties actually blossomed, and I'm seeing fruit set. So yeah, I'm excited. See, here's more apples. Woo! And I don't think this variety has ever fruited before, and it's got fruit set. I'm so excited. But more lemon balm over here. This is a dianthus that I actually transplanted out of that barrel. That it's bouncing back. It's looking pretty happy. Now this is the rootstock limb that was left behind, just because we didn't want to shock the tree by cutting off too much all at once. I removed all of the leaves that were coming in on it because they were all coming in with disease. They had the peach tree leaf curl. Like, they were all like coming in red and discolored. So instead of letting it like spread all over the tree, I just went ahead and removed those leaves. But as you can see, the tree is doing pretty well. I am going to have to come in here and thin this fruit because A, this is a lot of fruit on this little twig and it'll break, but also you'll get larger fruit if you go through and thin it. And that's what I did last year, and we had some amazing peaches. The apricot branch here is doing good. It's yeah, I don't think that we're gonna lose our branch because of my little zip tie chain. Now I know the zip ties are not exactly the prettiest solution, or even necessarily the most efficient solution, because they are kind of one-time use, but when you've got a situation and you need to address it quickly and can't think of something else, they seem to work. So yeah, zip ties. They are probably the most handy thing that you can possibly have when it comes to homesteading, gardening, what have you. So now we're moving on into kind of like my big project that I was working on all this past week, and that was getting the front yard cleaned up, because I have a shirt that says Plant Lady. I tell people that I have a YouTube channel, people that I know swing by and they know that I do all this gardening stuff, and my front yard kind of looked like a disaster. It was like Plant Lady who has a mess for a front yard. So I've been working on the front yard, and I've also got a couple of things that I wasn't expecting that are turning out pretty cool. So come check it out. So this is like my pièce de résistance. It is looking so great. The lavender here was, you can actually kind of see the discoloration on the sidewalk here, how far it was growing out. And so, I mean, I have done this before where I prune it back, but I haven't done it. I don't think I did it last year. So I do it kind of every couple of years. I hack it back, and you can see this bright green spot here. That's new growth. That's recovery. So I think it's going to be fine, and it's going to be taking over that spot within no time, I'm sure. But I got all this new mulch put in. I raked out all the old leaves and the junk that was all just in there, and I think it looks really good. All this fresh mulch got put in. There was a rose bush here that we transplanted from the back when we put the mushroom patch in, and it sadly did not make it. It did have some green growth coming around it, but that was actually the root stock from the rose bush that was here before, and I can't stand that stuff. So I just went ahead and pulled out the root stock, and now it's just an empty spot that's going to provide access for the mushroom patch. So I'm not planning on filling this in, and I think it looks okay actually. The rose bushes are back with a vengeance. This white one was seriously maybe hip height, and now it's probably up to my shoulder in the highest point. Coming back, this Japanese maple tree, I did hack out a couple of lower branches that were like sitting in this lavender plant. So cut that up a little bit. It really cleaned it up, I think. It made it kind of look more graceful. So I'm really happy with it. I was considering removing like the whole bottom limb here, but now just getting those 2 branches out of the way, I think it looks perfect the way it is. Hey, Miss Jane. Goats are weird. So, we have a Japanese maple out front, and it needed some trimming today. But what do you do with all these trimmings? Well, you stick them in various places for the goats. And the goats will pretty much munch on these over the next few days and rub on them and strip the bark off, and the chickens are very upset that we hung this where they can't get to it. Not that they would eat it, but I think they're curious about it. And like, what is going on? So, goat enrichment. Oh, Teddy, are you wearing a rose? So yeah, just have random branches spread out. And they do really like rubbing their faces on the branches. So, good times for goats. Good work for Mom. Now the other thing that I had going on out here is that I have a couple of rehab projects. I had a friend who, she texted me one day and said that she has these citrus trees. She doesn't know what kind they are. They were given to her by a neighbor who has a green thumb, but she is actually in poor health and was unable to transplant them or take care of them herself. I did offer to transplant them for her, but she said that she would rather that I just took them. So I took home these citrus trees that they were in Home Depot buckets. They were waterlogged because there was no drainage holes in them, and so I wasn't sure how they would do, but they seem to be pretty thrilled with their new situation in life. This is the first tree. This is the one that was like really waterlogged. It was like sitting in water that was like, when I pulled it out of the bucket, no dirt came up with it. It was just roots. So this one is a little smaller and a little sadder, but it does have new growth on it. It's recovering. And then I have these plants, or these flowers that are put in here. These are assorted alyssum colors. They're in pinks and purples, and they're going to kind of cover this soil surface so that it's going to help with the moisture retention in the summertime. Okay, these flowers, these are just different colors of the same kind of flower. They're called Calibrochoa or something like that. I don't know how to say it, so I probably butchered it, but I love them. I have another one that's growing on the fruit tree mound, and I just can't get over their color variation. The other tree is this one. It does have a few like damaged leaves that I've been kind of pulling off as we go, but this is all like new growth on top of it. This tree is exploding. It's thrilled and happy to be in here. It was in a little bit more dry soil, and so I think it just recovered faster because it was able to take some of the soil with it, and it was less jarring to the root system. And then these also have the alyssum and the Calibrochoa, or I don't know, whatever. The pretties, that's what I call them, the pretties. And then these ones are actually different colors than the other ones. So those ones are kind of more of a purple scheme. These ones are a little bit more of a pink scheme. So yeah, I have these rehab citrus trees. No idea what they are. If anybody can identify them, that would be helpful. Let's see, this one, I don't think either of them really have much in the way of thorns, so I'm not sure what to think. She thinks that one of them at least is an orange. I don't know for sure. Let's see, does this one have any thorns? This one does have thorns. So it's got thorns coming in. So I don't know. I don't know what they are. Just have to wait and see. Now my last major thing is that I need to find a place for this. This is a red hot poker flower. And I got it from my neighbor. She very kindly went out and got this for me from a friend of hers who has like a whole field of them. And now I have no idea where I'm going to put it. But I have seen them in her front yard and they're glorious when they bloom. Red hot poker flowers get tall. They are kind of like they look like flame, honestly. They're like red on the top and they fade down to yellow. And they're really, really cool looking and they attract butterflies and hummingbirds. But I don't know where to put them because David wants to have a front lawn and these plants can get large. And I did look it up. They're not toxic. So if I wanted to try and put it in the backyard, I'm afraid that the goats would eat it and I would never see anything happen. But I don't think it would kill them. Like, I looked it up and it says it's not toxic to humans, pets, or livestock. So it should be okay, but I'm kind of like, but what if they kill it? So I'm not quite sure what to do with it. I have a spot on the back of the house where I put okra, and the okra are just not making it. And I think that's because I planted them a little bit too early. The nights were too cold, and they're just struggling with it. But it is a spot that gets blasted full sun every day, and I might maybe stick it there. I don't know. But for now, it's living in a hamper with a bag in it. So I need to find a spot as soon as possible. And it does have new growth in it. And I don't know where to put it. It looks so pretty though when it fills out and it blooms. So it's like, I really want it. I just don't know where to put it. So that's kind of what's been happening around here. I've been busy, and I'm sorry I didn't think to bring you guys along on that experience. I was also kind of doing it more of a chaotic style, where I do a little bit here, do a little bit there, do a little everywhere. And little update on the hobo tomatoes that I had, the ones that were all spindly and sad and scary. I did transplant them into larger containers because they are actually all going to my mother's house. She's got a lot of like mounds in her front yard that have fruit trees and stuff like that, and she was considering things to put down in the mounds. And I said, well, I've got all these tomatoes, so she's kind of going to plant them willy-nilly and let them just do their thing, not trellising them, and kind of just watch tomatoes, how they grow wild. It'll be interesting to see what happens with them. A lot of people have issues with like blight and things like that because of moisture. However, we live in a crazy dry area. I mean, not crazy dry. I mean, it's drier in the desert. But the summertime is incredibly hot and dry. Like, we don't get humidity here. So it'll be interesting to see if they still struggle with issues with moisture. I'm kind of curious just to see what these are going to do. There are some cherry varieties, there are some large varieties, and just be able to compare them because they're all varieties that I planted in my garden that are all going to be trellised and taken care of and fed and all that stuff. And so it'll be interesting to kind of have a side-by-side comparison on the different kinds of tomatoes and how they produce and how big they get. So thanks for checking out what I've been doing here the past week or two, getting all this yard work done. And coming up, I'm planning on having a video with David where we're gonna sit down and kind of talk to you guys about what our goals are and kind of what our purpose is where we are now, and be able to kind of share with you guys what our hopes and our dreams are, and how we're thinking of implementing that in the future. So, as always, this is your urban nerd with a goat herd, telling you can grow where you're planted.